Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are playing some Cloudpost. Now this is a deck that got quite a lot of help from Modern Horizons 3, and this is the list that TrueFuturism took to winning a legacy challenge as well. So I thought it was about time to jam some new Cloudpost. For those unaware, Cloudpost is a land that comes into the battlefield tapped. It adds one colourless mana for each locus on the battlefield. And the idea is we play lots of other locuses. So we've got a couple of Glimmerpost. This is the locust that gains us life when it comes in. And then the new hotness, Planar Nexus. This is every non-basic land type. So it's Urza's Mine, it's Urza's Power Plant, it's Urza's Tower. But mainly for us, it's going to be locust. So it's going to trigger our Cloudpost. But I mentioned all those Urza lands for a reason. We're also packing 4 copies of Urza's Tower, which taps for 3 mana if we have a Power Plant and a Mine. So this, alongside Planar Nexus, just gives us a boatload of mana. So that's what we're trying to do there. We've got ourselves an Echoing Deeps, which can come in and copy a Cloudpost if there's one in the graveyard, like we've been Wastelanded. Also allows us to play with some of our utility lands I'll talk about in a second. We've got some Vesuvas, which can come in and copy Cloudpost as well. And this land's probably be over in the techie land slot. And then we've got a Yavimaya to help with our green count, as well as these 2 Elvish Spirit Guides and the 2 Forests. What I really like about Planar Nexus in this deck is we don't necessarily have the most amount of green mana sometimes. So having one of our big sort of colourless enabler lands also give us colour mana if we filter into it is really useful. So what are we trying to do with all this mana? Well, the end game is Emrakul the Aeons Torn or Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. Now we will tutor for these using Eye of Ugin when the time is right. But in order to get there, we've got some other tools. So we've got Karn the Great Creator. This is a good thing to dump mana into and just have some cool sideboard stuff that we'll talk about in a second. We have the One Ring, which can just draw us enough cards to make sure that we can do our Emrakuls and Ulamogs. We also have another new card in Sowing Mycospawn. This has really impressed me when it's been absolutely smashing me on the other side of the table. So it's a 4 mana 3/3. When you cast the spell, you search your library for any land card and put it onto the battlefield. And it doesn't say battlefield tapped, so you can go and fetch a Wasteland and use it right there and then. Or you can fetch like a land for mana to then cast another spell. It also has kicker of 1 and a colourless, and if you kick it, you get to exile target land. So you can hit your opponent and get yourself a land, which can be pretty good. So this has really impressed me when I've seen it so far. In order to find our special lands we're looking for, though, we've got some crop rotations, just the gold standard in finding a land that you want. We also have Once Upon a Time to begin the game with. This allows us to smooth out our early draws and get off to a good start. Sometimes we'll be drawing this and casting it in the sort of mid to late game, which isn't ideal, but it's worth it for the early draw that it has in terms of fixing our hand. Then we have some disruptive elements. So we've got Vexing Bauble. This is going to stop people from countering our big scary spells. It's also going to stop some combo decks from just playing a bunch of zeros and smashing us that way. So this is pretty good. And when it's not good, we can draw a card that's going to have lots of spare colourless mana floating around anyway. Then we're on to yet another new card, which is another card that I think has been quite impressive when I've seen it. Disruptor Flute. A 2 mana flash artifact. When it enters the battlefield, choose a card name. Spells with the chosen name cost 3 more to cast. And then activated abilities of sources with the chosen name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So this is Pithing Needle that can also make spells cost more if we want to do that. And let's say they're playing some sort of Planeswalker. We can make that Planeswalker cost 3 more and then also never activate. So it's just going to turn it off completely if there's something we're worried about. But this has got a lot of uses, and I am intrigued to see where we find some good utility off of this. I imagine a lot of time it's going to be naming Wasteland, but it is flexible. Then we have some tech lands that do various things that we'll be tutoring for. So Bojuka Bog, we can tutor for this to smash some graveyards. A lot of graveyard stuff right now, so it makes sense to have this. Also, if we crop rotate this away, we can get an Echoing Deeps, which then can copy the Bojuka Bog, so we get 2 goes at it, which is pretty nice. Boseiju, this one isn't really one we want to tutor up, but if we have it in our hand, it's just like a disenchant, which is always handy. We've got ourselves a Glacial Chasm, which we can hide behind while we make enough mana to just go over the top. We've got a Tabernacle to slow down some creature aggression. Karakas for some scary legends we need to get out of here. And a Wasteland if there's something holding us back that we need to deal with. We can always just go chew this up with our Sowing Mycospawn and just get there. So that's the main deck. Pretty interesting. But obviously we've got Karn, so our sideboard is kind of our extended main deck in a lot of ways. So in that regards, we've got a bit of Graveyard Hate that we can just fetch off the Karn and immediately play. We've got Haywire Mite to blow up some problem permanents. We have a Torpor Orb. This allows us to stop things like Thassa's Oracle from just winning the game against us, as well as some annoying Death and Taxes creatures just getting lots of value and smashing our stuff. So there's the new Death and Taxes creature which Ghost Quarters you when it comes into play. So having a Torpor Orb can be quite useful to go and grab. Obviously an Ensnaring Bridge to hide behind. A Walking Ballista if we need some removal or a way of pinging our opponent through their own Ensnaring Bridge or whatever. And a Mycosynth Lattice to just lock our opponent out of the game and say that's the end of that one. So that's our Karn package, but then we've got some other cards that we'll just be boarding in. So some Force of Vigors. We've got a few green cards. I'm a little bit skeptical about the amount of green sources we have here. But we have a lot of mana, so maybe we can cast it, but we're going to need like a Forest and a Planar Nexus or something, you know. The Yavimaya is going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting, giving us multiple green sources of mana. So that's the Force of Vigor. We've also got a little bit of removal and Dismember. We're a mono green deck, so we're not big on removal, and we need that sort of effect. And we got 4 Lane of the Void, because like I said, there's some graveyard decks out there, including Oops All Spells, which we don't want to get jammed up by. So we got some Lane of the Void to try and help that. Alright, that's the deck. I'm excited to play this one. It's quite a big departure from the old Cloudpost decks. Really utilising the power of Modern Horizons 3 cards, so like and subscribe, and let's get right into doing some Cloudposting. Our opening hand for the first round does not particularly look great. We've got these towers, which could suddenly pay off if we draw the Planar Nexus. But if we don't, we're kind of not really doing anything. Alright, our opponent said they loaded their wrong deck into this league, which is a bit awkward for them. Okay, so that's a bit of a wash. Let's go to round 2. Alright, welcome to round 2, which is basically our round 1. This hand is asking a lot from this Once Upon a Time. But I'm down to try this out. Once Upon a Time is a pretty strong card. Dig. We've got this Planar Nexus, which can do an awful lot of work for us. We've got some interaction. I think I will keep this. Like Tabernacle to slow down an aggro deck. We've got Vexing Bauble to stop a combo deck. We've got Wasteland to mess with some scary lands on the other side of the battlefield. So let's cast this for free and then cast our thing that stops people from casting spells for free. Well, we have one option to take here, so that's a Planar Nexus. I think we play this out and we're going to cast the Bauble. We can always crack this for a redraw. I was kind of hoping for a big mana land off that Once Upon a Time. We didn't quite get where we wanted to be. It's going to take a little while to get used to the metrics on this deck since it's quite different from old Cloudpost decks. Feels like this Planar Nexus is a bit of a linchpin though. It turns on our towers and it turns on our Cloudpost in quite a big way, and it gives us coloured mana. Plateau. We're looking at some sort of red-white initiative deck, maybe? Okay, red-white painter. Oh yes, okay, our opponent, I recognise their name now. They've played Painter against me before in the past. So this Vexing Bauble is unlikely to be the most useful thing you've ever seen. I believe we're probably looking at saving a Wasteland for an Urza Saga. I think I'm just going to draw this now. Does mean our opponent can do some somewhat scary things with Lion's Eye Diamond in a worst case scenario. So what are we looking at playing here land-wise? Planar Nexus means that we'll have more mana if we draw a Cloudpost down the line. We already have green that we can access immediately off of a Spirit Guide, so I think we are just playing the Nexus here. There is a Saga that we held the Wasteland for. They already have the Grindstone though. A Welder. And a Vexing Bauble. The fact that we're playing it means they're just going to get rid of this as soon as they can. They can weld it around. They can draw cards with it, whatever makes them happy. A Glimmerpost. That's not really what we want right now. Let's just take out this as a Saga. We're quite a ways off of actually like doing anything. But hopefully the Tabernacle can do some work and slow our opponent down. Make it difficult for them to keep their Welder or whatever other creatures they play whilst developing. Another Saga. Okay. Not a giant fan of that one. We get attacked by the Welder, or they're going to hold it. They're going to hold it so they can weld out the Bauble. So they can draw a card and weld it in if that's what they want to do. So, if we want to cast this Once Upon a Time, we could either pitch our Spirit Guide, which doesn't seem like a good idea. We could play a Glimmerpost and then filter some mana through our Planar Nexus. Or we could play the Yavimaya here. I think that's probably the best bet. There's nothing we can find here. Yeah, there's nothing we can find here that we can play, right? Because it's creature or land. So we can just do this at instant speed. Yeah, so they're drawing a card with a Bauble now. Well, we're definitely learning that maybe keeping a hand like this one is a little bit sketchy. We've interacted with our opponent a little bit. Right. We're going to see some Urza Sagas heading our way soon. Some Urza Saga tokens. Imperial Recruiter. So this can go and find them the Painter's Servant. So our opponent is playing sort of what is more of a traditional older sort of build. A strawberry shortcake build, as people call it, because it's red and white. Right, let's cast a Once Upon a Time. See if we can find something useful here. A Cloudpost. I think this is going to be a little bit too late to really matter. Vexing Bauble doesn't do anything here. We have an Emrakul in our deck, actually. So that's something. Although they can go and get a Sulgai Lantern off of this as a Saga, which would be pretty irritating. I think we are just supposed to jam this Cloudpost. And then we'll jam the Bauble. Do we want to cantrip off of this right now? It can find us a Crop Rotation. But Crop Rotation doesn't do us anything here because we can't Crop Rotate into the Tabernacle. I guess we could. I guess we can crack this at end step and then Crop Rotate when the time is right. So a little bit worried about the old Soul Guide Lantern coming off this Urza Saga. If they've got a land here, they do just win. We've already used our Wasteland, so we can't just. We have an Echoing Deeps, but that comes in tapped if it's copying. So we can't really get all we want to there, even if we were to find the Crop Rotation. So they're going to float mana off of this. If they've got a mana source in their hand, they can win here. Alright, they didn't go for the Soul Guide Lantern. I'm going to draw a card of this Vexing Bauble as a tower. I guess that was a little bit loose. If we drew the one of Emrakul, we could have just died then. That would have been bad. Alright, so get to see our whole deck and then the Emrakul triggers. We can cast an Ulamog uncounterably this turn as well. Because this is 3 mana, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10 off the Spirit Guide. So we can blow up the Painter's Servant and the Grindstone. Or we can take out the Welder and the Painter. I think it's better to take out the Painter because they have things like Red Blast, which can jam us up. So this is worth 2 mana. This is worth 3 mana, so this is just better, isn't it? Let's see if I've done my maths right. That's 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's cast this. I would like to blow up the Welder and the Painter. I thought the Painter's also more expensive of the two, so it's going to be a thing that's going to be harder for them to put back in. They can counter this with a Pyroblast, but we still get the cast trigger. I'm going to weld in that Bauble just so they get some value out of it, but we're still going to exile this Recruiter. And now we can play the One Ring or the Eye of Ugin. So we've got 9 mana here. This will be 10, 11. This will be 12, 13, 14. So we're still one shy of playing Emrakul if we just play those two out. I was surprised our opponent got the Mox Opal and not the Soul Guide Lantern after we showed them the Cloudpost. Maybe they don't have main deck Soul Guide Lantern, but that seems weird in this format right now. Ensnaring Bridge. That is not an issue for us. Karn is a pretty good draw here. If we can find that. Not a Karn. We could Sowing Mycospawn. It does get cheaper off of the Eye of Ugin here. So we play this out. And cast with Kicker. And what are we going to exile here? Probably just the raw mana. And we can go and get ourselves a Cloudpost. Or we can go and get the Wasteland and then hit more of their mana, if that's something we care about. I don't think it is. I think we just want more raw mana. So this means that our Cloudpost taps for more so we can cast the One Ring off of it. Alright, we're certainly doing some things over here. Let's have a look. A Vexing Bauble. I'll play this out. I'll crack this on our opponent's turn. Karn the Great Creator. We'll draw a card while we can. This will shut off our One Ring. It's a bit annoying. I'm curious how deep their Karn package goes as well. They've got a Lattice. It could be in a spot of bother. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tormod's Crypt. Okay. They're going to exile our Ulamog. Or they can use this for grindstone purposes as well. So we lose 1 life to this. Echoing Deeps. That doesn't do anything here, does it? If we play out the Glimmerpost, we can blow up more of our opponent's land and get more of our own lands. But does that help us? How much mana do we have? That taps for 4. So this and there's a tower can tap for this. Now leave us with 4, 5, 6, 7. If we play this, that's plus 1, 2, 3 mana. So that would give us 10 mana. So we could tutor for an Ulamog if we had another one, but we don't. So I think we're just going to tutor for more Mycospawns. Means we are playing this Glimmerpost, or we could play the Bojuka Bog and get rid of our opponent's graveyard so they can't weld or anything in. That does mean that they can just go fetch it with Karn, which is what they're planning on doing next turn anyway. Yeah, I think our opponent has us here. Because next turn they just go and fetch the Painter. Yeah, it's a tricky one. How much mana have we got left here? So I guess we get the Mycospawn. And cast a kicker. Need to pay green here. And a little bit colourless. What are we going to exile? I guess we try and hit enough of their lands here, maybe. So if we take out this mountain, then we can go and get the Wasteland and take out their plateau. Maybe that keeps us alive for 10. Glacial Chasm won't stop them being able to mill us. The Boseiju doesn't do anything for us here. It is just the Wasteland, I believe. So we're basically trying to stop it so our opponent can't make the Painter Servant and Grindstone activation in the same turn. That is our plan here. Next turn we can get another Mycospawn and do the same again. Obviously we can't get rid of this Wasteland, but we could get an Echoing Deeps. But our opponent would have to have a non-basic for us to target with that. If we can draw our Boseiju, that'd be pretty tasty. If we draw Emrakul, that's another draw step. Alright, our opponent is activating their Karn. What are they going to find? A Pithing Needle. So they're going to name Eye of Ugin here. So we can't tutor anymore. Which means it's going to take a little bit longer for this Karn to go and fetch up a Painter. Yep, Eye of Ugin, sure. So this cancels non-mana abilities, so awkward. Alright, we're going to take a little bit of damage from this One Ring. But Boseiju? A Vexing Bauble. We can play this, but we can't activate it because of the Karn. Does that mean we're supposed to play out our Tabernacle? We should be playing the Vexing Bauble. That stops any like artifact mana. I think we Bojuka Bog our opponent here. It's either that or we play the Echoing Deeps on the Wasteland, so we have that in the back pocket for next turn. If we need to stymie our opponent's mana. I think that's probably better because this comes in tapped. We could copy an Urza's Saga here. Urza's Saga doesn't really get us anything, does it? We'll make a copy of Wasteland. We don't get to attack because of the Ensnaring Bridge. Our opponent's got 4 mana. They need 5 to play the Painter and activate it. So they could win on this next turn, but this game is certainly shifted a bit. If we can find the Disruptor Flute, we can play that and name Grindstone or Tormod's Crypt. Alright, there's a Saga. So they now have enough mana to play and activate for the win. Alright, so they're just plussing on the Karn. We need a little bit of help here. Come on, top of our deck. Disruptor Flute or Boseiju. Crop Rotation. What does that do for us? It thins our deck and gets us more mana. Is that an important thing to do? I have to imagine if they've got Karn in their deck, they have a Painter in the sideboard already, so I don't care about Bojuka Bogging. Okay. We need to be a bit quicker on the clock here as well. If they want to make a construct, we don't mind about that too much. Right, they're plussing no targets. So we're going to Wasteland this as a Saga. They can make a construct. Maybe that was, we shouldn't have let them make a construct. Should I get a construct here? Then we will crop rotate away our Bojuka Bog. We can go and get Echoing Deeps if we want. Or we can just go get another Cloudpost so that we can't really activate the Eye of Ugin anyway. We've got enough mana to cast an Emrakul, right? So it's 5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, so we don't need that. So we probably just go get another Echoing Deeps. And I'll have another Wasteland. This 1 damage from the One Ring is not really going to be doing that much to us. And Urza's Tower. Okay, I think I'm okay to play the Tabernacle here. We got loads of mana. Let's see if we can squeeze our opponent on that front. So we can attack Karn with both of these. If we didn't let them have a construct, we could have stopped this. Yeah, that was just a bit loose where I was trying to play to the clock because I realised we're so far behind. So they're probably just going to put one under each one. Yeah, I think allowing them to make a construct is going to cost us the game just because we were trying to play quickly. That was very foolish of me. They kind of want to keep this construct though, because that keeps their Karn alive. Nope, they just let it go. Okay, so they're planning on playing out 2 cards this turn. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got a land. Painted Servant. Okay, this could be the turn they kill us. Do they have a mana source? I think this matchup should be pretty good for us because we've got Karns of our very own. I believe our opponent has a red Elemental Blast in their hand, so it might prove challenging. Right, we're going to pay the Mycospawn. Alright, they've got a Spirit Guide here, so they're just going to Grindstone us, and then they're going to activate this Tormod's Crypt. They've already seen our deck once, so... Alright, so then they Tormod's Crypt, get rid of all of our graveyard, nothing gets shuffled in, then we die when we draw. Yeah, I think we're a little bit unfortunate there, but it was definitely our mistake with the Wasteland that cost us here. Okay, so what do we want for a matchup like this? Force of Vigors look great. I think Dismember is probably something we need to consider, because these decks sometimes run Magus of the Moon. Karakas is part of our engine in a way because we can just loop turns with Emrakul. So I'm interested in keeping that in the deck just for that loop. I think we've shown that Wasteland is pretty good. Vexing Bauble does stop a lot of their 0-drop mana. But is it as good as just playing these things out? I don't believe so. I think I would rather have these items. What are we supposed to deal with now? Maybe I don't think we can trim any once upon a time. They feel kind of important here. We could trim a land. So we could trim either a Karakas, sorry, not Karakas, a Tabernacle or the second Echoing Deeps. I think I'm going to get rid of one Echoing Deeps and try this. Okay, well this hand is unplayable. We can't cast any spells. Let's mulligan. We definitely have some of the cards I'm very interested in having in this hand. So I will keep this one. I like having the Bojuka Bog here as well. Maybe we just get rid of one of the Karns. But we're not super far away from being able to cast this Karn, which should hopefully be backbreaking to our opponent. Let's cast this without paying its mana cost. Eye of Ugin is pretty interesting here. What does the Elvish Spirit Guide do for us? If we go turn 1, Cloudpost, nothing really makes a difference there, does it? So I think we do take the Eye. And play our Cloudpost to get that tapped land out of the way. If our opponent plays, like accelerates out and Goblin Engineer, we can obviously Bojuka Bog that. If they go turn 1, Welder, turn 2, Engineer, that could be pretty scary for us. Alright, and there's a Saga. I'm hoping we get to blow this up. A Dismember. Would I rather have this Yavimaya in play or this Eye of Ugin? I think it's the Yavimaya right now, because we can't cast the Mycospawn anyway. So we may as well just get this Yavimaya down. And then next turn, this allows us to cast the Mycospawn. Like nothing coming out there from our opponent. Disruptor Flute. So play out the Eye of Ugin. This is 3 mana for this card. This is 3 mana for 5. So we can't kick this, but we can play it and just tutor for a land. So we can go and get another Cloudpost if we want to. I'm going to make a token in response. Sure. So do we just want to go big mana town, just get ourselves another Cloudpost here? Or do we want to stop this Urza Saga from tutoring? If we stop the Urza Saga from tutoring, we do end up with them not having that many artifacts. If that's what we're worried about. This is a really tough call. I think we stop them from tutoring here. Which means our Sowing Mycospawn has a good chance of being the biggest thing in play. We've still got Dismember to fall back on as well. There is another Urza Saga. Understood. So we can stop them making more tokens by using this Disruptor Flute. Karn, the Great Creator. What are they going to go and find? A Tormod's Crypt. Understood. So we're going to dismember this token so we can kill the Karn. Right, goodbye token. A Force of Vigor. That's almost good here. I'd very much like to attack this Karn. So we'll play this Bojuka Bog. Wipe our opponent's graveyard. So what are we doing with our Disruptor Flute? Are we naming the Urza Saga here? to just stop them making guys? Or are we trying to be more defensive and naming like Grindstone? This is a really tough call actually, but we have to make it pretty quickly. So what we're trying to do is stop them making tokens so that our Karn can just shut off their whole deck. That is the plan here. Which we can cast next turn due to the Yavimaya we've got kicking around. Painter would be one of our opponent's better things to play here because they could then Red Blast, but Imperial Recruiter. Okay, what is this going to find? I assume it's going to be Painter, but they could have some other interesting things. Painter 7, okay. So no Magus to the Moon. A Cloudpost. Not unhappy to see that one. So we could hardcast a Force of Vigor, blowing up Urza Saga and the Crypt. That feels like quite a safe line. Alternatively, we could play the Karn plus on the Crypt, but then they're going to get a 2-2 off of this Saga. So I think we just are doing this, and I think it is the Crypt, because the Crypt represents them being able to combo us. We don't want to get them to get the tutor off of this Saga. Attack, they've got an Ancient Tomb pressuring them. We need to F6 some turns now because we are quite far behind on the clock. Right, there's the Painter's Servant. So this means they get to hold up Red Blast now. Another Force of Vigor. Right, we'll go to attacks. We're going to sort of use this Force of Vigor as bait. I have to imagine there is a Red Blast in our opponent's hand. I don't care about its 2 points of damage. I'd rather wait to see if they play something in the second main phase and save 1 point of damage. Right, let's do another Force of Vigor. This is going to be the Red Blast, I would imagine. There it is. They got rid of our Mycospawn. That was unexpected. Okay, let's cast Karn. I think our opponent just wants to try and stop us from winning the game here. I'll just get the Lattice and we can play that next turn. We can turn our Bojuka Bog into whatever we need. So we can go and get another Cloudpost. City of Traders from our opponent. They got Hardcast Fury. A Goblin Engineer, sure. An Ensnaring Bridge. Getting Echoing Deeps here. We'll copy the Bojuka Bog. We'll stop our opponent's graveyard. So now we get to Mycosynth Lattice, lock our opponent out of the game. We do still have to win the game, so our opponent's probably going to make us play it out because we're a lot further behind on clock. And that's certainly there. They're certainly allowed to do that. 2, 4, 5, 6. This becomes a 6-6. Let's turn our Bojuka Bog into a Cloudpost. And then we have 6. Right, so now we will tutor here. We get Emrakul. And we will crop rotate away this Yavimaya. Get ourselves another Cloudpost. And F6. So next time we're just going to cast Emrakul. Our opponent's just putting more stuff on the stack to make us click more. Right, we'll plus on the Lattice, we'll go to attacks. Attack with all of our guys. Our opponent has to lose 6 permanents. And then they die. They can't block the flyer in the sky. I didn't need to activate the Mycosynth Lattice. Alright. I like how I've sideboarded. I think this matchup is pretty good. But we're just going to be losing to the clock, I imagine. Said it would take a little while to learn the play patterns here. I've been thinking about it quite a lot. And obviously giving you some lovely commentary, hopefully. But I think we're up against it now. Is this hand keepable? Maybe. I think this is fine. I'm just going to immediately cast Once Upon a Time, and then I'm going to F6 my turn. Right, a Magus of the Moon on turn 1 is a little bit rude. There's a tower is fine. Now we can certainly beat the Magus. This might be a little bit time consuming to do so. Crop rotation pass. Alright. We're not crop rotating here anyway. We're looking for that Dismember. Yep, come at me. It's fine. Next turn we can play a Sowing Mycospawn. That'll be the biggest thing on the board. Painter's Servant, sure. Emrakul Aeons Torn. We're a little ways off of casting that one. Let me just get Planar Nexus here. I don't believe our opponent is attacking. Just lightning and bolting it away, that's fine. Once Upon a Time is the thing we're allowed to cast. Not quite what we're looking for right now. Place Glimmerpost out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try this out. I'm going to get Walking Ballista with it. Cast it Once Upon a Time. Sure, I'll have... and we'll pass. So we can make a nice big Walking Ballista next turn. We're pretty close to hard casting Ulamog. See if we can get a Walking Ballista in. Red Blast? There's a Red Blast. Sure. So we kept the Spirit Guide in case we can draw the Ulamog and just get ourselves out of this. Which will certainly win in a number of attack steps. A Goblin Crater Maker. The One Ring. That is the sort of draw that gets us where we need to be here. Let's draw a card. A Yavimaya, sure. It's as good as anything, isn't it? And then I think we need to crop rotate away this Yavimaya. We're just thinning our deck at this point. Can get a Cloudpost. And pass. Come on, One Ring. Another Blood Moon, sure. Let's draw some cards. Is it an Ulamog? It's not an Ulamog, but it is a Karn, which is not nothing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Get this Karn out. We'll minus the Karn. What helps us here? Haywire Mite is pretty good. It blocks and it blows up the thing. And we don't have time to play that out, do we? We can cast this though. Paint 7, sure. So opponent attacking here, they're not. Okay, Ulamog. We need you. That's not an Ulamog. This is only 2 damage to this. Okay, so if we go this, sacrifice, blow this up. Then if we pay this, it puts us so low that we die to this actually, doesn't it? Oh no, that was a mistake. What have we got? What can Karn do for us? Needs to do something. Lattice, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We don't have enough mana to play the second Karn here. No, I'll just mess this one up slightly because we're playing under time constraints. We're 1 turn away from winning this, I think. Now, we could have played the Emrakul, but we die to the One Ring if we do that. Our opponent just attacks with everything here, right? Because we sacrificed the Haywire Mite as well. Interesting. Exiling our Karn, sure. Pretty sure they just win if they attack us with everything now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, we don't have time to win here. I think if I'd have played the first game quicker, we could win this one. I think we had the tools to win this game. But I just kind of goofed a little bit because I was playing under pressure. Yeah. Interesting. All right. A lot of learning from that one. Let's go to the third round. Not an enormous fan of this opener. I think we can probably do better than this. Okay, I like this one a little bit more. How many Planar Nexus do we need? Many. I'll play out the Planar Nexus. Jam this Vexing Bauble. Next turn we can play the One Ring. And it'll be uncounterable. Wasteland. They're going to waste us? They are. Right. I guess I play out the Saga. If they the tower, sorry. If they waste the tower, I don't really care that much. It's annoying, obviously. But if they were to waste the tower, we still get to just play our Cloudpost and stuff. Because the tower is a thing that requires the Nexus, whereas the Nexus is just good with the Cloudpost as well. So hanging out either of these is a higher priority target for a Wasteland. Alright. Let's start cooking. So this is a pretty good start for us. Psychic Frog. Could do some real work. Right, let's draw some cards first. Ulamog, you say. I do like Ulamog. This is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 if you play this. This is already tapped for 2 though. Alright. We'll just play this out and we'll pass. An Archon of Cruelty. That's pretty good. We need to discard a card, do we? I guess we discard this Bojuka Bog. We might just be dead next turn. Well, that's pretty yikes for us. Let's get a look at our opponent's deck. It's pretty standard Rescaminator, which is nearly 25% of the meta right now because the deck is pretty broken and is probably catching a ban in the quite near future, I would imagine. But yeah, outlook not great for us right now. So another copy of the One Ring does a little bit of work for us. Hitting that Planar Nexus is pretty huge as well. Our opponent's just binning loads of cards from their hand to hit us for a big chunk with the Psychic Frog. This means they can smash us down quickly with Archon of Cruelty triggers because the ring only prevents life loss. This is target player, right? Target opponent, yeah. Okay. So we need to find another copy of the One Ring. Did not find another copy of the One Ring. What can we do here? We can turtle up behind a Glacial Chasm, but that doesn't prevent the life loss from Archon of Cruelty, so that's no good. How do we get out of this one? I think the answer is we don't, right? I don't know how we're supposed to beat this. Okay. Yikes. Leyline on the Void is an awkward one. I think we have to bring it in because we're just so cold to that whole plan from our opponent. Crop rotations feel a little bit sketchy. And the Karn feels awkward into a deck that's going to be applying pressure and having things like daisies. Yes, we do have Vexing Baubles, but we can't be guaranteed on having them. Disruptor Flute hitting Wastelands is still pretty good. So I think we're probably looking at trimming a couple of Karns. We want the Karakas for our own loops. Chasm is useful. Tabernacle is... I don't think the Tabernacle is great here. Our opponent's not going wide. And then maybe one Disruptor Flute. Something like this. We could board in Dismembers to try and kill the frog. But I don't think that's where I want to be. We want to stop the big scary reanimation plans. And if we can do that, then our opponent's playing a relatively fair game outside of the frog, which is not particularly fair Magic the Gathering card. This hand does not really do what we need. This hand does some stuff. We can keep this. So we need to keep our payoffs. It's probably the Planar Nexus here that goes. Or is it the Glimmerpost actually? It's probably the Glimmerpost, because this is 2 mana for the purposes of our Mycospawn. We start off with a basic. We can play a Nexus, then if our opponent tries to Wasteland it, we can always try and crop rotate in response. Is our opponent doing an Entomb line? This could be bad for us. So next turn we can cast a Mycospawn to get another land. Alright, here is an Entomb. Not a big fan of this one. I've gone for the Arcane of Cruelty because they know we have Karakas in our deck. He's getting reanimated on. What is getting crop rotated here? I kind of want to keep my basic. Alright, crop rotate away. So we've dodged the scariest thing our opponent can do. I would like to play a Cloudpost, please. So if they make an Atraxa, we can at least cover that with a Karakas. Alright, unless they've got a second Archon. I don't believe they will have a second Archon. But they're going to get a big reload off of this Atraxa. I put a Psychic Frog in the graveyard. Is that them valuing Psychic Frog more than an Atraxa here? Another Psychic Frog. Oakley dokley. That's Eye of Ugin. This means this costs 2 mana. Let's get a land. I'd very much like another Cloudpost here. Alright, opponent. So they can take to the sky with this frog by exiling 3 cards in their graveyard. So they might have just been entombing so that they can make sure their guy has flying. Yeah, that makes sense. So then this bashes, and they get to draw a card off of this. Okay, so we can drop this Vesuva as a copy of a Cloudpost. So we've got 2, 3, 4 mana. So we can attempt a One Ring, but that goes shields down on this crop rotation, which I'm not a big fan of doing. I don't think I'm the aggro here. Do I want to play this One Ring out into a Daze? I don't think I want to play it into a Daze. I'm just going to hold up this crop rotation for a turn. Just as a Brazen Borrower to attack with? It is. Sure. Alright, let's go in some cards for the frog. Now they're going to jump with the frog. And we're going to get bashed for 3 in the sky here. Our opponent has 2 cards in hand. That, to me, screams Force of Will blue card. A Wasteland, sure. Let's rotate this away in response to the Wasteland. And we'll go and get Echoing Deep so it can become a copy of Cloudpost. Glad I held that up. Ponder from our opponent. That makes me think they don't have Force of Will in their hand, because you just keep that as your blue card for your Force of Will. And our opponent is a good magician, so they know what they're doing. So these tap for 2 each, don't they? Let's play the One Ring. Okay, they do have a Force of Will over there. It's pretty good. Let's cast a Once Upon a Time. Don't hate the Glimmerpost. Do you want to force our opponent to pitch 3 cards? I think so. I don't think we're blocking with the Mycospawn yet. We're sort of getting towards an end game here. Like we can tutor for Ulamog, cast Ulamog very soon. So there's 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we can cast the Ulamog, but we can't tutor and cast in the same turn. They did not shuffle off that Ponder, which fills me with a little bit of dread. Psychic Frog. Drawing some more cards. A Murktide Regent. Okay. That's quite large. 3, 6, 7. So we could Mycospawn here. We could do an uncounterable Mycospawn. That's probably better than doing the Once Upon a Time. Alright, so we'll cast this uncounterable Mycospawn. This can go and get us Glacial Chasm. And keep us alive, hopefully. We'll sacrifice this Bojuka Bog. So we're trying to dodge Wasteland right now. And our opponent has seen 2, I think, so far. 2. But they are a deck with ponders and all sorts. Alright, they found the Wasteland, sure. Can they make their frog jump? No. They're probably not attacking with the frog. They're just going to crash in for 9 here. Or they might just crash in for a little bit. And then kill us next turn. We cannot block these. These do not have reach. Okay. A Glimmerpost. 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 mana. What does that do for us? I'm definitely playing this out. Still got another Echoing Deeps. So if we go 4, 8, we can get the Mycospawn here. It costs 4 to cast with Kicker, right? 1, 2, 3. So we'll exile their Underground Sea, it doesn't really matter here. And then we'll search for an Echoing Deeps. The Cloudpost isn't enough here, is it? Has to be another Echoing Deeps. We'll get another Glacial Chasm here. We'll sacrifice the Karakas. Our opponent has 1 Wasteland left in their deck. So we take 2 life off this. So then we activate this. Go and get another Mycospawn to gain some more life here. We'll blow up another one of their lands. Go and get... we don't have another Glimmerpost here, do we? They're both in play. We got Vesuva though. That does the job. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Glimmerposts. The Cloudpost, this is 5, 10. So we've got 10 mana here. 11, 12, 13, 14 mana. 15, 16 for the purpose of this. So we need to find a land off the top. If we've got a Cloudpost, we could have just let the Glacial Chasm ride. And then lose that and then do an Emrakul. We can just 2-step this though. Just take 4 from this and that's okay. We are giving our opponent an extra turn to try and find the Wasteland. 5, 10. So our opponent doesn't have... So if we get another Cloudpost, these will attack for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This would be 6, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's not quite enough. I think we pass this turn. We can play around... They've got hand disruption though, so I don't want to just go and fetch an Emrakul. This is going to die anyway, so we may as well crop rotate this away. Get on the Cloudpost. Let's go and get Emrakul. Alright. That was an absolute slog, but we did get there. All the way down to 1 life at one point. Alright. Sideboarding. We've already done the sideboarding here, haven't we? That was game 2, wasn't it? I like how we sideboarded. I don't think we want the Dismembers. Like, I'm just worried about our opponent's big combo of like putting a scary monster in. I think we can beat the Frog. Do I want more Disruptor Flutes? Do I want Disruptor Flute over Once Upon a Time? Just to cancel out Wasteland. We can also name Frog with that, which stops them from growing their creature. But obviously Wasteland is the first thing we want to name with it. So we can Vexing Bauble to stop some shenanigans. And then we can play around Wasteland with the crop rotation. Alright, the Sowing Mycospawn is so impressive to me that I think it's worth keeping because of this card a lot of the time. A grief. Okay, so they could just reanimate our Ulamog here. And then we lose. That would mean they'd have to have a way of disrupting our Karakas though. But we would be forced to get the Karakas. Alright, they've gone for the crop right instead. We're getting hit again? No. So this means the correct thing to play here is... Ooh, that's quite nice. Right, we'll cast this without paying the mana cost. We could just drop a Cloudpost right now. That's acceptable. Means our Vexing Bauble isn't up and running, but I can live with that. Our opponent's already got their proactive free spell. Alright, Undercity Sewers, that is a lot better for us than an Entomb. Troll of Khazad-dûm. There's a Wasteland, sure. Right, here's a Planar Nexus. Let's cast the Vexing Bauble. Let's pass the turn. So if we can draw an Urza's Tower, we can play the Mycospawn next turn. A Ponder from our opponent. No follow-up land. That means our opponent's got 4 spells kicking around in their hand. I guess we play this other Nexus and pass. Reanimate on the Troll of Khazad-dûm. Sure. Disruptor Flute. I think we play this Nexus, cast this guy, get a spell out of our deck. Land, sorry. So we could go and get the Cloudpost here and try and race towards this Ulamog. I think that is the play. This Mycospawn is great. I'm enjoying this a lot. Right, second land for our opponent. What does that mean? Psychic Frog? Potentially. There it is. The One Ring. That is a very good Magic the Gathering card, isn't it? So stats for 4. So I will have this. Let's draw a card. See what we're up to here. Right, Disruptor Flute on Wasteland. Right, they're discarding some cards with the Psychic Frog. I will play out this as a land, and then I will pass. If we can draw an Urza's Tower, we can just cast the Ulamog and blow both of these up and have a jolly good time with it. I haven't seen Orcish Bowmaster in my opponent's deck. In my opinion, shows you that Orcish Bowmasters isn't the problem in Legacy like some people think it is. Right, this card is much better, and this card is the real problem, I reckon. But probably this as well. Maybe Reanimate, who knows? There's a lot of problems. There's always an uphill battle against the blue-black Scam decks. But we're close. If our opponent goes Hellbent, we can cycle the Bauble. Alright, let's draw some cards. A tower. Alright, we get to play our Ulamog. Goodbye, enemy creatures, please. I'd be very surprised if we don't win this game now. Right, we got the GGs. Game 1, they absolutely slaughtered us. Game 2, though, was an amazing back and forth and a really good game of Magic the Gathering that I enjoy quite a lot. This game, we kind of got scammed a little bit, but we just happened to have the right things. Like, if we don't draw the Urza Saga, then we're still probably fine. Like, we can do Karn around a days there, right? So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana. So we can do Karn into Ensnaring Bridge around a hardcast days. And that would have kept them at bay. So, like, we're still fine in that situation. But, yeah, deck felt pretty good that time. Let's go to round 4. We're asking a lot from this Once Upon a Time. But if it hits Cloudpost or Urza's Tower, that's pretty good for us. So I think I will keep this. Right, let's have a free spell. I don't really like these spells. I want a land that taps for mana. That's what I want. I get this Karakas. I'll play this Planar Nexus out in case we draw the Tower. And that gives us the ability to play the One Ring or the Sowing Mycospawn if we want to pitch the Spirit Guide. Island into town, yeah. Sure. Bauble. Mishra's Bauble. We did draw the Tower. I think I'll just get the One Ring ticking. And then the Karn can be the follow-up that... Oh, wow, we're just in. That's pretty good. Okay. We've got a plan. A load of spell from our opponent. Are they some sort of combo deck? Feels like they want lots of artifacts. There is an Emry. Our Karn looks like it's going to be pretty annoying on this board for our opponent. Yep, so they get a token off of this Tamiyo. Are they going to start popping some baubles now? They are not. That's interesting. Okay, so let's draw some cards. The thing I like to do. What land are we playing here? Are we just racing to Ulamog? Probably a good shout here. 3 mana, 4 mana, 5 mana. So if we play a land, we can just kick this Mycospawn, and that's going to be pretty savage, isn't it? What does that mean we're playing land-wise? Like, I could always Karakas bounce this Emry, but I don't really care if they bring back a Thought Monitor here. I think we play out this Planar Nexus. So we cast this with Kicker. So it's 3, 4, 5, and exile this for 6. So we get to take out this Urza Saga, which is the scariest thing our opponent's got going on, I think. The other option there was to play the Karn, get the Tormos Crypt to shut this off. We are pretty close to Ulamog already. We're going to see a Metallic Rebuke here. I think we just get the Cloudpost. Yep, there's a Metallic Rebuke. That's fine by me. I don't really care about the body that much. Alright, they want a Lotus Petal. Sure. Does this mean our opponent's doing some sort of Cap Cannoneer line soon? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 off the Tamiyo. That's what this looks like to me. No, it wasn't. Okay. So this is 3, 6, 7, 8. So if we just play this as a tower, we can just cast Ulamog here. And this can blow up the island and the Emery. And then when we get Karn going, we are having a good time. Alright, that was pretty gross, to be honest. We drew relatively hot, so I can't really complain about that. So what we've seen from our opponent. We've seen some graveyard stuff in the form of Emery. Do we want Leyline to combat that? I don't think we do. Do we want Dismember to combat that? And also give us a fighting chance against some patchworks? Possibly. We definitely want the Force of Vigors. I think the Vexing Bauble here looks gross. I'm looking forward to ruining our opponent's day with that one. Tabernacle. Our opponent might be a go wide deck with like lots of little tokens. So the Tabernacle looks pretty good. Disruptor Flute on their things is probably better than the Emery. Probably better than the Dismember, actually. So then we're just looking for 2 cuts to squeeze these Force of Vigors in. I think we can trim 1 Once Upon a Time. And maybe 1 Echoing Deeps. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's not a lot of green cards now that we've brought out 1 Once Upon a Time. But maybe we take out a Flute and keep in the Once Upon a Time just so we've got more green cards slightly in case we get in a horrible situation where we need to dome a bunch of stuff. Yes, hand slaps pretty hard. There is an Urza Saga. There is a Mox Opal. There is an Urza's Ball. If they play another artifact, then we have to cast this now before they can Metallic Rebuke it. Would I like a Cloudpost? Would I like a Wasteland? Quite like a Wasteland. Who's the Wasteland deck now, I guess? Our opponent's hand looks like it's relatively all in on this Saga right now. Tamiyo, sure. I don't mind going slightly slower here just to Wasteland our opponent. Being a Cloudpost deck that also has a copy of Wasteland you can shoot for feels pretty good. So we can do a turn 2 One Ring if we want to. But our opponent has to cash in all their baubles at this point. I think we're going to see what we draw and then work it out. So we can always just start bouncing this. Oh, we can't bounce the Tamiyo now because it's going to flip. I think they're better off with that as a creature. I think the Planeswalker side of this card is bad, to be honest. I think you just want to be getting a load of artifacts. But maybe their plan is to try and do this enough that they can stop us from what we want to accomplish. So this makes 3 mana. So we can play this, play the One Ring on turn 2 still. All right. We'll just play the Cloudpost for now. Yeah, so maybe the plan is just to up this and then crack it for the 7 because they don't have anything else going on. And I suppose as an opponent, it's not the easiest for us to interact with. So our opponent is quite likely at this point to have a Metallic Rebuke, I would imagine. I'm going to play out this Planar Nexus and cast this One Ring. Yep, there's a Metallic Rebuke, sure. Right, so this is going to pop next turn. So Disruptor Flute would be quite nice to answer this. We did not find the Disruptor Flute. We did find the Vexing Bauble, which is going to be pretty good against our opponent, I have to imagine. So play out this Planar Nexus. We'll cast a Vexing Bauble. So our opponent can draw a bunch of cards, but all their zeros won't do anything here. And we're going to see a Force of Will pitching Metallic Rebuke. Do we need to crop rotate for anything? Do we have anything that's worth crop rotating for in this situation? I don't believe so. We might just lose to Tamiyo Ultimate, which is the second time that is going to have happened to me. To be fair, the first time it happened to me, we just bricked and didn't draw anything. Alright. So our opponent's playing a bunch of stuff out here. We can't really F6 because we have this crop rotation, which may be a thing we want to use in a second. But it doesn't seem likely we're going to be able to get this crop rotation off to do anything. Lava Spur Boots. So this is, you have no maximum hand size at the beginning of combat on your turn. If you draw more than 1 card this turn, put X+1/+1 counters on target creature where X is the number of counters you've drawn. Okay, so they're doing like a combo here. So they've drawn enough cards to make this hasty and have a bunch of stuff. Okay. I could have crop rotated there, but they've got almost certainly some sort of counter magic. Alright, I was not expecting to see that from our opponent. That was intriguing. I like the Dismembers maybe a little bit more than I thought. Let's trim a Once Upon a Time for a Dismember. Also like the Flute as well. A little bit more than I thought. So I'd rather have a Flute than this Dismember. And I don't really want to get rid of any of these cards. They all just seem too good. I guess we're not playing the Dismembers. This hand looks pretty bad to me. This is a bit of an ugly one. We have to go turn 1 Vexing Bauble, turn 2 Boseiju, crop rotate into something, because these cards are kind of dead on their own. Here's a sketchy one. Don't really want to go to 5 here, though. I think we have to put back a Vesuva. Our opponent pretty much has to Force of Will Vexing Bauble with their deck. Alright, it didn't. So we shut off, what, like 20 cards minimum from our opponent's deck here? Probably close to 30. Haywire Mite, sure. That can blow up our bauble. If they can get the right mana for it. Once upon a time... what are we doing here? I think we crop rotate away this into a Cloudpost. Play the Vesuva as a Cloudpost. Next turn we can cast a One Ring. They can get a Pithing Needle off this Urza Saga though. Another Vexing Bauble. That is quite an interesting one to play here. I think I just want to get the One Ring going though. If we find any land off this, we can cast the Vexing Bauble as well. There we go. There's the land we wanted. The Bauble. Now we've got 2 of them. So they can go and get Pithing Needle and put on the One Ring. But a lot of their deck is going to be shut down because of this Bauble. Yep, we're not going to get bashed with Construct tokens this turn. We've already got quite a lot of mana going on. I suppose there's potential they could get a Lava Spur Boots so they can hit harder the next turn after the One Ring bubble's gone. Or they could go and get the Mox so they actually have access to coloured mana here. Yep, so they've gone for the Mox to get access to coloured mana. Alright, they've got an island as well. Chameo, sure. Pithing Needle. Okay, they have the Pithing Needle in hand as well. Just going to name the One Ring, I suspect. Yep. We don't take any damage this turn, but there's quite a bit of damage coming in next turn. This is a more interesting shell for Tamiyo than I've seen. Like, people have just been throwing it in like other decks. Just like generic-y blue decks, and I think it looks bad. Tabernacle is interesting. We don't get to activate this anymore because of the Pithing Needle. I'd like to cast the One Ring, please. Sorry, Once Upon a Time, not the One Ring. A Cloudpost. So we play this. Next turn we have 3, 6, 9 mana. So we can chew to next turn. So if we take a hit this turn, then we chew to next turn, then we probably die. And that sounds bad. Or we play this and we tutor for the Mycospawn, which can at least block and get us some other stuff going on. So how much is this? This is 5, 10, 11, 12, 13. Alright. We can't crack either of our baubles because our opponent can just get us with the Haywire Mite and then just dump out their hand and make their guys huge. We need to survive this turn. Then we can Mycospawn next turn. Probably. So this is 3, 6, 9. Yeah, so we can Mycospawn and go and tutor for Glacial Chasm and sit behind that like a coward. Like a noble coward. But we have the One Ring ticking as well as a Glacial Chasm potentially. This turn is going to hurt. Guess we could always just draw an Ulamog. That does some useful things. A Glimmerpost. That gains us some life, but not enough. Alright, so we're going to activate this. Going to get the Sowing Mycospawn. So this costs... Oh, we don't have quite enough to kick it actually, do we? We have to cast it regular-wise. A one-off. Alright, so we get to search for a land. So this land... A Glimmerpost... What does a Glimmerpost do? Gains us 3. That puts us to 7. Or effectively 6. Which means we die from one of these. So the only option we have available to us right now is getting the Glacial Chasm. And the Glacial Chasm has to sacrifice another land. What is the land we sacrifice here? Is it a Cloudpost or is it a Yavimaya? I don't think we can sacrifice a Yavimaya. I think it has to be a Cloudpost. Which is grim. Short Metallic Rebuke. We've still got the bubble from the Chasm. So we're going to go to 1 on our next turn. But we're going to play the Glimmerpost out. That helps out a little bit more. Right, so they're going to attack with the Tamiyo so they can make themselves another construct. Another clue token. Our poor life total. Ooh, we've just drawn one from hand. That's actually pretty good. So if we play out this Glimmerpost, so we can cast this, or are we just going to get an Ulamog next turn? So this is what, 1? So this is 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we can get Ulamog and cast it and blow both of these up. But we probably have to blow up our own One Ring if we do that. I think we're just going to cast this Mycospawn with Kicker. So if we exile this Ancient Tomb, then it's going to be harder for them to pay for our Tabernacle that we're about to drop. So do you want a Glimmerpost here or Cloudpost? So if we have another Cloudpost, this is 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's not really enough, is it? It has to be another Glimmerpost, right? Gaining a bunch of life. So it allows us to sit behind our Glacial Chasm for one more turn, right? 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Yeah, if I'd have tapped differently, I might have been able to tutor there. No, I think I did have to tap the Cloudpost there. No, did I? I could have tapped the first Glimmerpost. Alright. Oh, dear. So we're paying 4 life this turn, I think. Okay, so this taps for 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll tutor for an Eldrazi. We'll go and get another Mycospawn here. Cast this with Kicker. We'll blow up our opponent's land. And then what do we get here? A Vesuva, copying Glimmerpost gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 life. And how much mana? 5, 10. Do I need life here? Or do I need life or do I need mana? If we get the Cloudpost, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5, 10, 15, 16, 17, 18 mana, 19 mana, and we need 7 plus 12. So if we get the Cloudpost, we can just Emrakul our opponent next turn. That sounds good to me. We should have to deal with our One Ring, actually. Right, another Metallic Rebuke. So then we play this out. Plays Vexing Bauble. This means that we can keep our hand empty for Ensnaring Bridge purposes down the line. Alright, so our opponent has 1 mana, so they get to save 1 thing here. They're exiling one of our baubles. Am I drawing a card off of this? I think I am. Echoing Deeps. So that can become a Glacial Chasm if we need it to. Right, what are they going to save? A Construct or a Tamiyo? A Tamiyo, maybe. Nope, it's going to be a Construct, sure. Otawara. A Thought Cast from our opponent. So we'll pay for our Mycospawn here, I think. Then we take 1 for this, and then we say no to the Chasm. So we have another copy of the One Ring, which is a pretty good draw for us. Our opponent has 7 cards in hand, but they can't cast anything they want to, really. This gives us protection for a turn. This one. Yeah, our opponent's giving us the GGs there. Oh, a real slog of a match there. But this Cloudpost deck feels great, to be honest. Decks can certainly go underneath us. That's how we sort of lost some games. And also playing slowly was how we lost a game. But that gives us 1 more round to go. So let's jam right into it. And we're currently looking for the 4-1. We could have been 4-0 at this point if we'd have played a little faster in the Painter matchup. So let's see if we can get the 4-1. This opening hand for the final round is not where I want to be. Is it? Once Upon a Time is quite good. I'm just not a big fan of the Tabernacle. Alright, I'm going to keep it and see if the Tabernacle... Sorry, the Once Upon a Time pays out for us. Alright, let's cast this Once Upon a Time. Well, well, well. I think we take a Planar Nexus here. Gives us better draws down the stretch. Let's get this Vexing Bauble. Maybe this will just completely collapse our opponent's deck. It's kind of like the new Chalice of the Void in a lot of ways. Where it's just able to really impact a lot of decks. Alright, our opponent's turn. Alright. We've got a Planar Nexus again. We've got this Disruptor Flute. I don't really know what we're putting it on. Could be Wasteland. Alright, our opponent's cracked this. Now we're going to play the Disruptor Flute on Wasteland, I think. This might not be relevant to play the Disruptor Flute on Wasteland, but we can't wait to see a Wasteland when our hand looks like it does. Alright, Meticulous Archive. My immediate thought is that our opponent is on Blue-White Phyrexian Dreadnought, because that deck is quite popular at the moment. It's pretty fun. And I think it's pretty decent. Urza Saga. Okay, this does feel like Dreadnoughty type stuff. Shuko. Okay, maybe we're on Cephalid Breakfast. So Vexing Bauble does stop Cephalo Breakfast from really popping off with their combo, but they could just do Nadu things and draw the whole deck, which is not where I like to be. I guess we play a Glimmerpost. It gains us 3 life. That's not nothing. But we're going to need another mana source if we want to cast our Karn, our Mycospawn, or our One Ring. Right, it's our opponent's turn. They've got another land, but nothing else going on. A Disruptor Flute. Well, I guess we're playing our Tabernacle because we're not doing anything else with it. We've got this cheeky Disruptor Flute. Are we using it to fight over the Urza Saga? It gets them 1 more guy. I don't think we care about them having 1 more guy. I think I'd rather see what they tutor. A Lotus Petal. They're equipping their construct. We're just getting bashed out for a little bit here. They chose to save their construct with the Saga rather than make another construct. Makes sense. Nadu. I'm going to name Shuko here. Into the Vexing Bauble. So this means they can't move the Shuko around and draw any additional cards. But they do still have 6 power in play that we're going to have to deal with. Karn the Great Creator. We just can't cast any of our spells here. Hand does really not work out quite as I intended. So we've got 4 turns of getting beaten down by these guys. I imagine they're just going to save them both, turn them sideways, and hope that we don't cobble anything together. Which seems like a solid approach to this game. Another Vexing Bauble. That's not really what we wanted, was it? We'll play this out. I think we will draw a card with this one because we need to find something. A Vesuva. Do I want a Vesuva copying a Glimmerpost? That doesn't feel great, but it's probably fine. Gains us a little bit of life. Means that we can actually cast our Karn and our One Ring next turn. Alright, opponent. Pay your tax. Yep, we're going to go to 11. A Wasteland. An interesting one, isn't it? I think we go... Get the One Ring going. Good cards are good at the end of the day. We'll draw a card. Oh, okay, we're going to play this Cloudpost instead of Wastelanding our opponent right now. Because next turn we can Mycospawn them and Wasteland them, and that should be lights out. Unless they find a land this turn, they have to find one right now. They didn't attack because of the One Ring. Okay. So if we want to cast this with Kicker, can we do that? This is 5 mana. Oh yeah, we can definitely cast this with Kicker. I'll go and get this Eye of Ugin. It's Wasteland on the go. Ooh, not that mode. Oh, we named Wasteland with our own Disruptor Flute, didn't we? Ah, yes. Let's cast this. Let's put this Ulamog into our hand and put our opponent on notice. Right, so they're keeping the Nadu. Makes sense. It's got evasion, and it was bigger. It was a 3-4 instead of 3-2. But we're just going to Ulamog them now. I'll keep this guy around. Play this out. Blow these 2 things up. Alright, so we blow these 2 up. Their styles their upkeep, then we kill them on the next attack step. Alright, Vexing Bauble is a pretty good Magic the Gathering card as a 10. So all of these cards are good in this matchup, as is the Force of Vigor. We cannot board in all of these cards. So we have to make some choices. Do I think we're going to need to hide behind our Glacial Chasm? It's a possibility if we're getting like Cauldred, and that's going to be bad for us. Disruptor Flute can name some of their things, for sure. But is it able to name enough? Because we could name Shuko, and then they play Nomads, and then we're in trouble. I think we'll take out one Once Upon a Time for a Dismember. Are we going to rely on the Karn to be disrupting their graveyard? Maybe we take out a Karn for a Dismember. So the Vexing Bauble stops their infinite combo, but they can still draw a bunch of cards with Nadu. So we've got tools that stop this from happening. I think this is okay. We have the Vexing Bauble. We have some removal. This hand is a touch slow, but I'm going to believe it. There is a Ponder from our opponent. Right, let's have a look at our free card here. If our opponent dazes this, it means our Vexing Bauble is not getting dazed. Would I like some more mana? Or would I like this Sowing Mycospawn? I think we should just play it safe and take the mana here. And we're probably just going to play out this Glimmerpost because it adds to the count of cards that we want. And we're playing out this Vexing Bauble rather than holding up the crop rotation anyway. Okay, so they can't cast Dread Return from their graveyard anymore. So as long as it's in play, our opponent can't combo us. And they also can't cast Force of Will or Daze unless they're hard casting the Daze. or the Force of Will. Next turn we just sit around holding up some Dismembers, which importantly cost 1 mana rather than no mana, so the Vexing Bauble doesn't hit it. You're just sort of going to muddle through until we can put something a bit scarier together. Our opponent has Cracked a Scalding Tarn. Got a Tundra. We're going to see a Stoneforge here. They went for an ending instead. Okay. I'm going to play this Forest, and we're going to hold up 2 Dismembers and a Crop Rotation. Also a Boseiju. I'd rather not get rid of the Boseiju because I kind of just need to make land drops. So if we Dismember this, and our opponent has Force of Will and Daze, we lose. The Boseiju is a guaranteed way of dealing with this Shuko right now. But if they've got another Shuko, then we lose. I think having 2... Oh, this is a tough call. I think we're going to Dismember this. I'm expecting this to get Force of Willed. Alright, no, it didn't. Intriguing. We'll pop their Graveyard out because it's going to be a pretty important zone this game. I think I'm firing off his Crop Rotation. We need to be shields up yet again. So I think we are playing out the Eye of Ugin because we might need to fire off this Boseiju. Haywire Mite. Okay. You can equip a Shuko to your Haywire Mite. That's fine by me. In the end step, we can now, once upon a time, Cloudpost is what we want here. Start cranking the mana up. I don't think we need a Glacial Chasm to beat this Haywire Mite. Right, so we've got Boseiju and we've got Dismember. We do also have the Crop Rot. But if they're just on Haywire Mite beatdown, I can live with that. For a while at least. Nomads and Core. Sure. That is a slightly different proposition. Are we supposed to Dismember that now? Because we don't get a chance to hit the... Yeah, I think we're going to Dismember this. We just don't get a chance to hit this. We don't get a chance to Dismember the Cephalid Illusionist. So they'll have 2 pieces. And so we can break up with the Boseiju as well. A Mycospawn. So how much does this cost with Kicker? 4 mana. How much mana do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we could cast this with Kicker, couldn't we? Seems like a fun thing to do. I guess we take out your Tundra. They could Daze to protect their Tundra. Be pretty good here. We can't pay. We want to keep the Boseiju in hand. Okay, we're just in, are we? Are we just getting another Cloudpost, just getting loads and loads of mana? That seems pretty good here. If that's the case, we're playing our Boseiju out. Because then we can at least cast this Crop Rotation. So we can go and get another one of those spawning Mycosynth thingy-majigs next turn. Because this is 6 mana, 7 into this, and then it's just 2 mana to cast it. We don't get to kick it though, which is what I really want to do. Alright, our opponent just had enough. Pretty impressive. That's how I describe this particular deck. I was very impressed by what we did here. The only round we lost was because we were really slow on the clock and we made a couple of bad decisions. Like we had an option to Wasteland and Urza Saga that we didn't take because I was too busy looking at the clock, and that pretty much cost us that game. Now our opponent might have had something that could have stopped them losing their Karn, but that pretty much cost us the trophy with this deck. So my impression of this deck is this is a real player in the meta game. I think it felt like we could go over the top of what a lot of people were doing. We had a lot of stalling ability with things like Glacial Chasm. The Tabernacle was pretty good. But I think the big takeaway from this deck, for me, is Sowing Mycospawn. This card looked incredible pretty much every single time we cast it. And this allowed us to dig ourselves out of some pretty nasty holes when we were like at 1 life and stuff. And we're like, okay, let's Eye of Ugin and try and find our way out of here. And this was just giving us life until we could just get over that final hump and just win the game. So this card was excellent. The Planar Nexus was pretty good. It was just another another Glimmerpost a lot of the time, except it could also filter mana, which we did use a few times to cast some spells. So that was important. And the few times we did do Urza's Tower into Planar Nexus felt pretty gross, just doing 4 mana on turn 2 with no Ancient Tomb damage or anything like that. It was a lovely situation to be in. Disruptor Flute also felt really strong here, being able to have the flexibility to name stuff like spells as well as things like Wasteland. Obviously, we didn't end up naming much apart from Wasteland. I think we did Urza Saga once as well, So it was just a glorified Pithing Needle. But the flexibility is there, and I think that is a really important thing. Like, if you're worried about like your opponent casting Necrodominance, then, you know, maybe we can try and play this on turn 1 with a Spirit Guide if we're lucky, or maybe turn 2 if our opponent's got a slightly slower hand, and then all of a sudden the Necrodominance becomes harder to cast, and we get the time we need. The Vexing Bauble looks very impressive. This was my number 2 pick for cards from Modern Horizons to sort of see lots and lots of play and sort of change things, because this is great. This is like a Chalice of the Void that protects us from all the things we're scared of, like all the counter spells and all that sort of jazz, and the combo decks that go underneath us. This is the perfect card for Cloudpost. This card is really good, and as demonstrated, it did a lot of work. Yeah, I think this deck is very impressive, and you should definitely have it on your radar as a thing to worry about. The Karn board was pretty good. We definitely dipped into some of those bits and pieces. We didn't grab the Torpor Orb, but we did play against some Thassa's Oracle decks in the form of Cephalid Breakfast, but that's just not the best way to fight against that in terms of the tools we have. We did Mycosynth Lattice win as well, and the Haywire Mite was quite nice to go and fetch out too. Yeah, no notes on this deck at all. It's a little bit tricky to sideboard with sometimes if you want to board in more stuff. Maybe we should have been more proactive about boarding out the Karns. I'm not sure, but this deck felt pretty legitimate. We did get buried by Scam in one game, and it wasn't even close, where they just sort of had their Scam stuff and just absolutely rinsed through us. But if you can get a Vexing Bauble down, you can dramatically change the things you're worried about. So this deck is great, and you should definitely play it, and I'm very glad I played it today. Had an absolute blast with it. Aside from Tabernacle, this deck is very cheap for a Legacy deck, I would say. That's the only card that's expensive, but that card is, you know, several thousands of pounds. So that's making this quite an expensive one. And we did show that it is kind of necessary, because that allowed us to stop the Nadu stuff and stop our opponent from ever developing in that game, where they might have been able to, you know, cantrip their way into something more useful. So I don't think you can cut the Tabernacle if you want to play it in paper and not spend all the monies. But that being said, pretty cheap online, I would imagine, and this deck really impressed me. Cloudpost is back. Big Mana is back. If you want to go over the top of people, this is how to do it. And considering like Nadu value is like kind of capping the top end of the format at the moment, because it's very hard to beat a deck that can draw that many cards, right, with Nadu. However, Cloudpost is definitely one of the decks that might be able to do that. Now, if they're on like a Nadu combo deck where they just play the whole deck, then sure, we're not going to have a good time. But we've got the Vexing Baubles and the Disruptor Flutes, which help for that as well. This deck just feels really well built, and I can see why this won a challenge. I'd be very happy to just immediately queue into another league with this deck and maybe play a little bit faster. It was the first game we had. Now, I must note that our opponent did scoop round 1 because they loaded the wrong deck into the league. So I will take the 4-1 there, because we kind of got a free one, and we kind of punted one a little bit by going down on time and playing quickly and stuff. So overall, I think the 4-1 is fair, but I could easily see trophying with this deck. It feels very strong. All right, thank you so much for watching. We're done today, so please like and subscribe. It really helps get my subscribers up. I'm over the 3,000 mark, and we're heading towards 4K subscribers, which would mean a lot to me. It gets us close to that big milestone of 5K, which would be wonderful, which I'm hoping will be sometime in the next 12 months. The sooner the better, though. All right, ramble over. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.
If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.